could give an explanation, but I don't think it would do much good. Playing a typical city builder, even the more grim ones, is generally about creating a place where everybody's needs are met, everybody's happy, and there's probably a whole load of trains. But some towns are a dark place filled with villains that seeks to bring only despair and evil to those around it. And I'm not just talking about Leeds. This is Dungeon Keeper, a city builder RTS hybrid that tasks you with being an evil overlord, building your dungeon, destroying rivals, defeating any heroes that stand in your way, and there's not a goddamn train in sight. Released for the PC in 1997 by legendary British game developers Bullfrog Productions, Dungeon Keeper is my favourite classic PC game, and despite many attempts, nothing has come close to capturing its greatness. Like all great RTS games, it spawned a sequel, a terrible freemium mobile game, and a China-only MMORPG that didn't even last 2 years. Buying the game now on Steam bundles it with a pre-configured DOSBox launcher, but with this version you have multiple unpatched glitches and a complete lack of modern resolutions, and getting the multiplayer to work requires sacrificing a goat. But in 2023, Keeperfx, a full source port of the game including fan content, mod support, modern multiplayer, quality of life fixes and a significant amount of patches was released, making the game fully playable on modern systems. Some more purist types watching probably heard the words fan content, turned their nose up and shit themselves, and while there's no way to apply the fixes without the extra fan content, I too played the game back in the day, and while seeing the fan stuff there did throw me for a loop at first, you're just going to have to file the original vanilla Dungeon Keeper with turkey twizzlers at school and Tony Blair as Prime Minister for things that you didn't know you would miss until they were actually gone. I feel I must say though that the quality level of some of the fan content on display here absorbed me more than the base game ever did, and the quality of life features like instant building rooms and WASD for camera movement, also a whole new level of scripting to make more complex fan levels, eclipse anything nostalgia could give you. If you're the sort of person who wants to call Dignitas if you ever see the words config, port or directory, installing Keeperfx onto Steam might seem daunting, but I'll walk you through the whole process. And for the record, this entire video was filmed using Keeperfx 1.20. To begin, download the full game on Steam. If you need help with that, get one of your grandchildren to do it. Then head to keeperfx.net. Unless it did some crazy UI change since the upload, it should look like this. Then you want to download the latest release. As it downloads, navigate to the Dungeon Keeper game in your Steam library. Right click it, then select Properties, then navigate to Installed Files and click Browse, which should open a folder that looks like this. Copy the address of this folder, we will need it in a second. Now when Keeperfx is downloaded, extract the entire archive that you got into its own folder, and once fully extracted you should have a folder that looks like this with these files in it. Then copy and take everything out of this folder and go back to the install directory we opened previously and find the all capitals DOSBox folder and put it all into that. If you do this right, you should have a DOSBox folder that looks like this inside. We're all ready to install now, and much like me after 3 pints, it's as easy as just slapping that thing in there. Inside your Keeperfx folder there is a program called Launcher. Open it and then click Installation. Now navigate to the main Dungeon Keeper install folder, the one we copied the location of before, not the DOSBox one, and select it, and Keeperfx will be installed. Now while you could run the game like this, it won't launch directly through Steam and you'll be missing music, so we need to fix that. Open the DOSBox folder in the game's install directory and right click and create a copy of the Keeperfx application. Then find the Dungeon Keeper application and rename it to whatever you want. Now we rename the Keeperfx copy to Dungeon Keeper, and if we did it right, the icon will change. Now, launching the game through Steam will launch Keeperfx, but we still don't have music. Go to the main install directory and find these OGG files, labeled 2 through 7. Then copy them into the music folder inside the DOSBox folder. Then go back to the main Dungeon Keeper folder and start the launcher application again. Here you click Run Options and then use CD for game music. Once you see the -CD in the text box, add no before CD so it reads no CD. And now finally you're ready to play. Being a game from the last days of 2D sprite work, you do get some really great and detailed images for buildings and your units, while the maps themselves are a rather rough looking 3D. There's a kind of brown wash on all the colours, nothing looks clean except for the heroes, dungeons and units. But you are a dark evil lord who would never even consider hoovering the warlock's library carpet. The one complaint I do have for the visuals is they get a bit muddled in the big fights, with it hard to pick out exactly what unit is doing what and who's even losing. Sound wise though, the game is perfect. The limited original soundtrack is very subtle at times, to the point you'll probably think you fucked up the music files instructions from before. But if on the first level after a few minutes you hear a monk at the bottom of a well stub his toe, then you did it right. What little voice acting is present in the game is provided by Richard Ridings, who plays the metaphysical mentor of the player character, giving you alerts and mission briefings, as well as being the source of most of the humour.
Wishvale. This region of dreaming underlings is ruled by the beautiful Lady Catherine. She's kind and fair, and doesn't imprison or torture her subjects, for some reason. Panic Intrinsica. A weeping, wizened crone presides over this ruined, empty land now. Once she was beautiful. Now she'd want to make you vomit. The improvement is impressive.
If his voice seems familiar to you, that is because he still works today as the voice of Daddy Pig in Peppa Pig. I cannot dare play a clip because the BBC will kick my door down and rip my testicles off, but you can hear the mentor voice coming through a bit at times. Seeing how good the game looks and sounds as a whole, it really does feel distinct in its specifically mud and grime encrusted Britishness. It's reminiscent of the incredibly overdramatic public information films where the Grim Reaper tells you you'll drown in mud we got shown in primary school. Completely unrelated to Dungeon Keeper, but on the same topic of incredibly dark British public information films for children, look up Apaches from 1977. Ostensibly about farm safety, it plays as a prototype of Final Destination, as the film becomes a compilation of the most hilariously bizarre ways children can die on farms, including drowning in manure. They showed this to 8-year-olds. Before we get onto the gameplay, I'll say this game has a bizarre relationship with the truth. The game itself, its manual and the official strategy guide constantly contradict each other or straight up lie about the game. So much so, the segment of the wiki just correcting these things is intimidatingly long, but at points it does get a bit pedantic. Once in the menu, we have the options for single challenge levels, campaign and multiplayer. Keeperfx has added multiple fan campaigns, but for the first one of course, the best option is to stick with the base game. Once the campaign is started, we find level selection takes the form of a physical map of the various realms of good we are tasked with corrupting and conquering, which adds up to 20 levels in total for the base game, with multiple secret levels and also special levels that only appear on the night of a full and a new moon. We begin in Eversmile, the first level, and we are taken to our first dungeon. Gameplay is isometric, but you can rotate the camera in increments. One big departure from other RTS games is that your control over your own forces and workers is more through suggestion rather than direct demand. In fact, without the use of magic or special rooms, the only creature you are capable of telling to do anything are your mindless imps. Imps form the backbone of your dungeon and its economy. They have no need to sleep, eat, or be paid and can be spawned in as great a number as you like, as long as you have the resources to spawn them, which scales up with each imp you make. Imps are responsible for many things in the dungeon, but the most key is digging out new rooms, which you designate and let them organically prioritize and perform the task. Digging is also how you extract gold from the map. The other tasks minions perform are claiming ground tiles to be under your control and reinforcing walls. Both of these are crucial, as you cannot build rooms on unclaimed tiles, and heroes and enemy keepers cannot break through reinforced walls. But the task of reinforcing walls is very time consuming, and your imps prioritize it far below other tasks, and this is where indirect suggestion comes into play. Much like a Labrador dropping a ball at your feet to play fetch, grabbing some of your employees with a freedom deficiency and dropping them next to the needed tasks causes them to reprioritize what is closer, although sometimes it doesn't quite work right. Right-clicking on a minion results in slapping them, which also has the same reprioritization effect and gives the creature a speed boost for their task. but it is best to use sparingly, as while your imps cannot rebel against you, other creatures absolutely can. The key part of how your whole dungeon works is the rooms you build in it. Each tile of a room you place gets efficiency bonuses from being surrounded by other tiles of the same type and reinforced walls, so digging 3x3 and 9x9 squares is usually optimal for each room type. In the base game, rooms had to be built one tile at a time tediously, but thanks to Keeperfx, it is much easier. Eversmile gives us only 3 room designs to play with, but there are a total of 14 buildable rooms, with the dungeon heart being pre-placed and portals needing to be found in the wild. So let's go over them, the creatures we can command, and our spells before continuing with the campaign. It is rare for you to ever have access to all rooms in a single level, but even when you do, you're going to need to research and unlock the ones beyond the most basic. You also need to keep track of what rooms you place and when, as there is only a limited amount of creatures that can enter your dungeon and they are attracted to different rooms, with the priority going to the first rooms placed. Your dungeon heart is your physical presence in the realm and the map. The beating heart in it is constantly accompanying you in each level, and you will lose a level if it is ever destroyed. And in turn, in order to defeat both enemy keepers and heroes, you will usually need to besiege and invade their dungeons and destroy their heart. The treasury is the first room we start with in Eversmile, and the cheapest and most basic room. In order for mine gold to be able to be spent, it must be physically placed into a treasury by your imps, who will loot bodies and take gold piles, as well as mining gold for you. This is also where your creatures will come to be paid. Building this room more efficiently isn't super important and just increases the amount of gold each tile of it can hold. So in my experience, it's more important to just put it near to where the gold is coming from to get it into your treasury quicker. Next is a lair. All your creatures will demand a space here to rest. Resting is an occasional need of your creatures and also the only way they can heal. After they spawn into your dungeon, typically they'll wander over here and build a nest of some kind. Said nests aren't totally one tile per creature though, and some right greedy bastards who, don't worry, I will get to, can hog multiple tiles with just one lair, which potentially locks you out of more forces. The slots available to house creatures and the rate of healing depend on the efficiency of the room, so typically this will be the biggest room in your dungeon. One thing to note is creatures only actually get angry about not having a lair when they survive a fight and need to get healed. So if you do a thatcher and start a fight to distract from a housing crisis, you'll find both problems solving themselves. Feeding your minions is done from the hatchery, which endlessly spawns chickens for your creatures to eat, but be careful not to make this too small, as you can deplete the hatcheries, especially with a large population, and it takes a while to build it back up again. Next, we have one of the most crucial rooms, the training room. This is the only consistent way of leveling up your creatures, and in some levels getting a working training room and combat capable creatures as soon as possible is vital to winning, but training costs a consistent stream of money, with the most capable fighters that you can get easily able to deplete your entire treasury just by getting hench. This means balancing your budget with your combat minions will be crucial to win in levels where gold is scarce. The final of the basic rooms that don't need research is the library. It's dark, there's shit on the walls, and you just know these warlocks are sticking anime figures on the shelves. It is here where you learn new spells and new room designs. Technically almost any creature can research, but most are annoyed by it, and if you have mixed research ability creatures, the lower ability one will inevitably insult the highest waifu, and a fight will start until one of them leaves. So unless it's absolutely necessary, it's best to leave research to warlocks, dragons, wizards and fairies who prefer to be in the library than the training room, the little nerds. The library is also where magical artifacts you find in the world called level specials will be taken to by your imps. These are powerful one-use spells that can level up or double all your creatures, unlock secret levels, and even transfer a creature into another level, an ability that is really crucial for the harder parts of the campaign. Spells are critical to the game as they are generally the only way you have of directly affecting the action or directing your minions. All but one of your spells cost gold to use, and certain spells are only used on a single level, so I'll talk about them when we come to them, but for now I'll go over the most important spells to know and the ones that are typically available in every level. Possession. This is the only free spell and by far the most useful, and the one most fan levels and challenges are built around using at some point. Casting it lets you take direct control of any of the minions in your dungeon, like your Harbinger from Mass Effect 2, and you fight their battles directly for them. You are also much more effective at fighting than your creatures are on their own. The manual states that you can even perform all tasks a creature can do while possessing them, like reinforce walls or train, but that is a total lie. Beyond just the boosted combat encounters, possession allows you to get creatures past typically one-hit kill traps like boulders by evading them, and also explore the map significantly faster than your creatures would do organically, if at all. Playing this game, you'll realise how many little details the devs put a lot of attention into, like the way the creatures wiggle when they're in your hand when you pick them up, but here, with possession, you can see the way a creature actually sees the world reflected when you possess them them. Even if it's just a case of smearing gem on the screen, the fact that every creature has their own specific eyesight that you look through when you possess is a great detail that really fleshes out the world. I do have one complaint about possession though. There is very little feedback about whether or not you're actually doing something. See, when you're possessing a creature and you strike an enemy, there's nothing to actually tell you whether or not you hit. Especially when you're attacking doors as well, you just have to keep pressing left click and hope that eventually the door explodes. Onto the create imp spell that I've already explained, so I'm just going to leave you with the lovely little noise it makes. There's also a mix of damage spells you can use anywhere you have vision of, like Lightning Strike for direct damage and Caving for an area effect. You can even charge these up with more gold if you want something so dead you'll go broke to do it. Heal, which you can charge up with extra gold and restores the hit points of both enemy and friendly units anywhere, even if they're in a fight. Sight of Evil, which for the cost of draining your gold continuously gives you sight of an area within the fog of war. This is incredibly useful, as once you have dug into somewhere there is no way to undo it and you're stuck with whatever you did, so it's very important to always know where you're digging into. And finally, Call to Arms, which brings all your creatures to one location to beat up anything that's there. It's free to cast on your own territory but drains gold when on the enemy's land, but it is only one of two ways that you have to actually direct your creatures offensively. Back onto rooms now, and these are the rooms you have to research and very seldom if ever start with. Bridge. It's a fucking bridge, what do you expect it to do? While a lot of your creatures are completely unbothered by water, the bridge makes it possible to claim land on the other side of it and allows your creatures to pass lava, which does damage them. The guard post. Now this is a bizarre room in my opinion, whose only function is from how glitchy it can be. The concept of it is that the guard post allows you to drop a creature on it and they will stay there attacking anything that comes past, only leaving for payday or to eat. The problem is, at least in my experience of the campaign, outside of some very rare situations, every fight is a messy brawl with everything both sides have, so a single unit guard is just asking for them to be overwhelmed and captured. Having a staffed guard post next to an enemy dungeon, much like having an outdoors cat in Coyote Country, is just you paying to care for something, then feeding it to something else for free. The real use of guard posts though comes from the tiny amount of height they add to a tile, which as it turns out is just enough to prevent non-flying creatures from leaving water onto that tile. This allows you, in a game balanced entirely around the fact walls are static, impenetrable and irreplaceable, to create your own walls around underground lakes. Fan campaigns make extensive use of planning around this, and one specific level in the main campaign is significantly easier when you make use of this as well, as the game typically uses underground lakes to force a weak point into your dungeon that you can't fix. The workshop. Here your minions bash at whatever the hell this thing is and make contraptions that take some do-gooder elf and turn them into fertilizer. Much like the library, different creatures have different skills at work in here, but the lack of debates on if Goku solos Dr. Manhattan mean there isn't infighting when you mix skill levels. Keeping with the game's focus on indirect management, you cannot tell your creatures what to make in your workshop, but there are ways to game it. The traps and doors on offer from the workshop are limited but serve the functions well. You have direct damage traps that only target enemy forces like the lightning and gas trap, instant kill traps that have a high chance of fucking your own troops over in the boulder, and there are 4 tiers of doors in different strength levels. Doors are very useful as you can lock them to your own units, giving you the barest amount of traffic control to your minions that you otherwise do not have, as they are completely independent on where they go. This is especially useful with one specific kind of minion that I'll get to that is just a complete bastard and can't be allowed near anyone else. Traps are typically built in an order of effectiveness and then loop back to the start after they build the highest. But if you do not place the trap, there is a total limit of 3 that can be stored within a workshop no matter how big it is. This means that you can force the construction of specific or higher tier traps by keeping a full stock of the others. The most useful element of the workshop though is that the traps can be sold immediately after being placed, allowing you to theoretically have an infinite but incredibly click intensive and inconsistent level of income without any diggable gold. There will be times in the campaign, and especially in fan campaigns as well, where you are incredibly gold starved and this is the only way to survive. The next 3 rooms are all about cleaning up the mess after some dwarf and his dipshit friends felt like stealing all your gems and had a run-in with Puff the Magic Dragon. So in the dungeon overview you can select whether or not your creatures should kill or wound heroes. Leaving it at kill is where the graveyard comes in. Corpses annoy and upset your minions for some reason, the massive posses, so it's good to have a place to dump them off. This is why most self-respecting towns have a canal. Your imps will drag bodies to your dungeon's graveyard, and as an added bonus, every 10 or so bodies that get consumed by it will spawn an incredibly incredibly powerful vampire unit. If you're one of those soft touch, big tent, let's work together types, keeping heroes alive is more your bag, and this is where the prison and the torture chamber come into play. With your creatures set to take enemies alive, they will leave them with a barest amount of health incapacitated on the ground for your imps to then drag to prison. Once in prison, they will slowly starve to death, and if they do, they will rise as a fairly decent fighter unit, the skeleton, which as a bonus doesn't need to be fed or paid. If you care about the sanctity of life like some pleb, you can instead throw them from prison into the torture chamber. This will kill them quite quickly, so you'll need to heal the units with your magic, and for higher level ones, possibly return to heal them again. But slowly over time, in the all expenses paid stay in Costa del Anal probe, eventually enemy units will be converted to join your ranks. Doing this means winning even one fight against an enemy keeper allows you to snowball hard as their losses join you and they cannot retrain and replace in time. You can also torture your own creatures for laughs and give them a speed boost to all creatures of the same kind at the cost of angering them a bit. The barracks is the second way of directly commanding your minions. Inside the room is a raised platform you drop creatures on to assign them to your barracks group. If you then possess one of the creatures in the barracks group, all the others will follow them. I must note this room is so outclassed by the call to arms spell, I only found myself needing to use it 2 times, and even when I did use it, it didn't quite work right, and I left behind some units, and nowhere in the game actually explains how the barracks work, so back in the day, if nobody told you, good luck working that shit out. The temple is an interesting room, needing no efficiency bonus, it is just as useful minimum size as it is maximum. The center pool in the room lets you sacrifice your units to the dark gods, and the right combinations can get you blessed with some of the best minions in the game that are otherwise unobtainable. The scavenger room. This is the last to be unlocked and the biggest headache when facing enemy keepers. This wacky disco space of dancing eyes lets you assign creatures to psychically convince enemy minions of the same type to join you. It is incredibly expensive to do, but the only way to defend from it is having multiple of the same creature type uselessly worshipping in the temple, and you can totally drain your enemies of all their units if they don't do the same first. Now you're probably thinking that the name scavenger doesn't quite fit the function of this room at all, and you would be right. The room is actually named after a rival software company which during the development of Dungeon Keeper was actively trying to poach Bullfrog employees. The final room I'll talk about is portals. They cannot be placed as they're always neutral territory within the map you're on, and it is the responsibility of your imps to claim them. It is from portals that minions enter your service when attracted by the rooms in your dungeon. Creatures enter your dungeon at level 1 and are largely useless until they get at least a bit of training going, only having a melee attack to start with, but they gain new spells and abilities as they level. The level a creature is at affects how much it collects on payday. In an interesting mechanic to balance creature power, every 8 minutes all your creatures head to your treasury to collect wages, with the most powerful monster types asking for significantly higher fees that just balloon into ridiculousness as they level up further. The easiest creatures to attract, the cheapest to pay, and what you'll typically be stuck with in your early levels are insects, making up beetles, flies and spiders. Spiders are the only one that is able to reasonably fight, flies organically explore unlike other creatures, and beetles are completely fucking useless. And as soon as you can, you should swap them out for literally anything else. Later on, you get much more capable creatures like the demon spawn and the combat and trap making bile demon. The bile demon especially is going to be the backbone of your combat minions. He is immune to gas traps, has a selection of fart based spells, and is pretty damn sexy.
I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky.
Half ranged fighter and half researcher. This is the Warlock. Totally outplus without training, as they are lacking any ranged attacks until level 2. So you're left with a choice of either having research or having ranged fighters in the early game. But do be warned, because these stingy bastards are rather expensive to train. Trolls are attracted to mentioning trans rights in a video, and also the workshop, where they happily work as they are useless in combat. Much like me, they have a bigger purple cousin in the form of the Orc, who is more handy in a fight while still being just as capable in the workshop. Onto the higher tier of units, we get the Dragon, who swarms out of portals in the late campaign and can easily become a white elephant. To start with, lair-wise, remember how I mentioned certain creatures take up more than one tile? Well, you probably assumed it would be the Bile Demon, and while you're alright, that guy's big sexy ass takes up 2 spaces, the Dragon's on the other hand takes up 4. On top of all that, they collect the 3rd highest wage in the game, which is manageable until the portals spew 10 of them at you. Unlike Hollywood would lead you to believe, training your Dragon is actually quite easy and only a minor catastrophe economically. It is worthwhile to do, as they are very good fighters, but I find myself doubting if I ever got my money's worth from them, especially in comparison to other creatures, but it is really handy to get them killed before payday. They aren't even a proper dragon, by the way, as they lack 4 legs. This is a Riven and thus cringe. Vampires function as one of the best spellcasters in the game and are very good researchers. They also lose an experience level instead of dying and resurrect right back in the lair, but they are very expensive, irritable, and will infight your warlocks if they share the same living space. The next creature I want to talk about is the Dark Mistress, who, well... So, the Dark Mistress looks like this, tortures themselves for fun, and is the second best combat minion in the game. This explains a lot of my development. Her combat skills are not a joke either. She is a walking army at high levels, and transferring a level 10 Mistress from one level to the next makes a significant amount of the campaign much easier due to their massive speed, self-healing, and damage output. Only one unit is really capable of soloing them, and that is the Horned Reaper. He's on the thumbnail, he's on the box, and Jesus Christ, he's killing all my dudes. The Horned Reaper is always pissed off. He actively gets more angry from everything, even sleeping, and when he inevitably breaks, he will attack all your units without mercy. He's 10 times more expensive to pay, train, and do anything with than any other unit, and he can only be typically gained by sacrificing creatures, but when you use one of them right, no other unit besides bosses can hope to stand against them. In my experience, the best thing to do with a Horned Reaper is treat them like the fantasy equivalent of a Matra British Aerospace and Engineering Scalp e.g. air-launched cruise missile, and let them off on their own towards the enemy to deal as much damage as possible in a single-use style attack. There's a lot of units I didn't cover because they weren't quite interested enough to have a whole segment about, and all units have a hero equivalent for the good guys as well, giving the game a significant amount of creature and unit variety. But seriously, what was I going to say about the goddamn tentacle? It's a tentacle. Now you're all caught up, we are back to level 1 Eversmile. Digging out the nearby gold, which reveals an underground lake, and building a new treasury, we claim the neutral portal and get our first minions in, beetles and flies. We build the necessities to keep them alive before 2 groups of heroes are sent to the dungeon. They have their own digger units and make their way towards a dungeon heart, but luckily the reinforced walls stop their advance. Getting the right walls reinforced and quickly is crucial to winning the campaign. Heroes typically are sent on scripted expeditions to tunnel directly towards you, and will find any openings you do have in your dungeon, but reinforced walls completely stop them and there's no way for them to get through. If you're especially quick, you can totally lock out enemy patrols in certain levels too, letting you engage them at your own choosing. But on this level we have that lake, which has left us with an opening we cannot reinforce, so these patrols will inevitably get in, so the best option is to open a path to fight them on our own terms. Echoing how I treat TV license inspectors, the second the heroes step foot on my territory I dump a bunch of pissed off giant insects on them. This fight is nothing, and once all the heroes are defeated, the Lord of the Land arrives. Most levels require defeating the Lord of the Land to complete, and the rest of the level is fulfilling whatever requirement it is to get them to spawn, but typically it's just wipe out all the heroes. With Eversmile's Lord, to take him out it's just another beetle Bakaki, but I do try out Possession to muck in, which leads me to discovering that the beetles, much like the cinematography of a Yorgos Lanthimous film, feel there is a time and a place for the fisheye lens, and that time is now. With the Lord dead, the land is ours and it's on to the next level. Here we see that the level select map dynamically changes as we complete more campaigns, showing our growing dark influence. Again, it's one of those little touches of detail from Bullfrog that make the whole experience so complete. Especially with Richard Riding's beautiful voice work explaining just how choy and good the bastards in the next land are going to be before you visit. Cozyton is level 2 and thus our next stop, and we have more of the same as the last level, but now we get the training room. Our dungeon is also surrounded by water, making it much harder to dictate when and where the fights are going to happen, with 3 waves of plebs coming at us this time. But they're rather easy to take out with our new demon spawn units, and before we know it the Lord is out and he's dead. Job done and onto level 3. It's another defense, but now we get warlocks, and I'm able to take the fight into the hero's base, leading to their attacks spawning right into Mr. Chompy and his whole goon squad. I also discover a secret area on the map with the hidden ability of using my eyes and following a path. I'm able to find a hidden training room with 2 skeleton warriors ready to join me in it. Level 4 Flower Hat is where most of the training wheels have come off and I feel the game actually starts. You're given the workshop, a few spells to research, and have to take the offensive and destroy an enemy hero's dungeon heart to win. While there is a Lord of the Land, only the destruction of the base ends the level. The game's difficulty does take a massive jump here, and I found that enemy heroes were just slaughtering my minions at one point as all my warlock shots were hitting the terrain, so I had to use Possession to position a warlock to be able to fight back. This level also introduces us to gem seams. These function as unending gold supply. As long as you have the minions to dig at it, gems will keep spitting out gold and never be destroyed. In level 5, Lush Meadow on down, we face our first enemy keeper. Anyone who played the game at launch isn't that concerned by that, and I never remember the game back in the day being particularly hard. And that is because in the original game there was a bug breaking enemy keeper AI so that they never trained their units and were seldom aggressive, making levels originally meant to be death matches with a peer foe into a calm, turtling paradise for everyone playing. A patch for this was released by Bullfrog, but given this game came out when the internet went down because your mum needed to call Auntie Carol about the new sale at Bent's, very few people played with it installed. Keeperfx thankfully includes this patch, and with them patched, enemy keepers play by the same rules you do, but often start with trained units and a more significant gold pool. Beyond that though, they have to mine gold, attract minions, and build rooms the same as you. They can even take control of level specials hidden on the map if they reach them first, so aggression is key to fighting other keepers. From this point on, levels will frequently use gold to bait you as a player into leaving yourself exposed, as gold cannot be reinforced, so even going near the stuff is leaving an opening in your dungeon. This level especially has multiple instances of gold opening out into water, and there's a lava zone in between your two dungeons, meaning it's very easy to accidentally end up in a fight. The key to defeating this first enemy keeper is to rush our research so we can get bridges and claim the neutral prison and the pre-trained minions inside of it for ourselves. This, coupled with the level specials on either side of the lava zone, put you at a distinct level and gold advantage, and you can take down the enemy keeper without too much trouble. One fun bit of bonus trivia about levels with enemy keepers is that originally enemy keepers would send you messages through any printer connected to the computer you are running the game on. This was great until testers at EA found the game was sending threatening messages to network printers in completely separate parts of the building with absolutely no explanation. The next two levels, Snuggledell and Wishvale, are more of the same, but in Wishvale, due to creatures only spawning when the rooms that attract them are present, obviously, I mess up and put a library down too late and have to press gang multiple bile demons into doing the research for me. This is also an interesting map, as it's the first where you need to defeat both the Lord of the Land and his entire hero dungeon and an enemy keeper. Now, in games, there's such a term as a filter level, a boss or an area or a level that is such a high spike in difficulty that it's the place where most people quit playing. And level 8 in Dungeon Keeper, named Tickle, is exactly one of them. If you're gonna quit the game, this is where it happens, because it is here the enemy keeper AI goes from mildly threatening to actively outperforming and able to beat you. So much so, this is a level unaware people come to complain about how much more difficult than the original game Keeperfx is. I cannot stress how just psychologically it screws with you having played the game with very little challenge, turtling up as much as you want years ago, and now being thrown into levels where genuine tactics, rushes and danger are present, and finding out it was always meant to be that way. There is an excellent video just about this change from the dev intended gameplay and how people actually experienced it, revolving entirely around Tickle by TImberwolfk. I will link it in the description and possibly on the screen depending on if YouTube allows me to do that anymore or not. It goes over some of the game's development as well in more detail than this video, so I highly recommend watching it. To our northwest is a goldfield with a valuable gem seam, and in the northeast is the enemy keeper's dungeon, who starts with a lot of level 4 creatures and significantly more access to gold than us. Despite our economic issues, we need to be wary of the gold patch to our immediate northwest. It is on the way to the gem seam, but it is a trap, as mining the gold gives way to a lava lake with multiple level 4 fairies able to completely vaporize your units from range where the lava is stopping them fighting back. If you avoid that and go for the gold field to the east, you will probably find the enemy keeper has not only reached it before you, but is currently waiting with a fully trained army to swarm in the second the way is opened up. Due to being unable to reinforce gold deposits, if you mine or even open up your dungeon to any of these gold blocks, you are done for. Now, before I get to actually how to win this level, if you are interested in playing the game blind at all, now is the time to do it before I go over the strat. I'll be honest and say it's one of the few times I felt like the computer player was truly threatening and outplaying me in a strategy game, and it really does push you to use every tool at your disposal in order to win. But if you've already played it or don't care, here is how to beat Tickle. The devs aren't entirely as cruel as they seem at first. Going far to the east gets you access to a large safe gold deposit with enough to reasonably train your minions to fight the enemy keeper, and access to the lava lake running through the map, as they intend for you to go the long way east and rush attack the dungeon heart of the enemy with a bridge, but I find that completely inefficient and very luck dependent, as the enemy keeper starts with a huge economic advantage and it only gets stronger from there, because committing to that strategy ensures the enemy keeper will reach the infinite gold gem deposits to the northwest, while for you to get to them you have to deal with the fairies and another group of level 5 giants, because fuck you, I guess. But it is this direction I found the most consistent way to win. Usually in an RTS, fighting your enemy economically doesn't really work as the AI is often given several cheats to compensate, but since Dungeon Keeper outside of starting bonuses generally makes enemy keepers play by the same rules as you, being strategic about gold deposits can win you games before a single fight even starts. So, in order to starve our enemy of gold, we need to rush those gem deposits as soon as possible, but this plan can easily backfire. The second we break down the path, the 3 level 4 fairies will start slaughtering our imps from range, and we cannot afford to replace them or lose any, as we need the imps to dig out and reinforce fast. So we need to rush building out our dungeon, focusing on lure space and get at least 4 bile demons. Then by picking up our imps as soon as possible, we can bait the fairies into coming into the dungeon, where we can drop the demons onto them and they will not last long then. Now remember that gold field nearby, that's a trap. We need to also rush there and build a 1 tile thick layer between us and it. By dropping our imps, we can rush the reinforcements, sealing the enemy keeper out from attacking us this way. Once that's done and the fairies are taken care of, we'll be completely unable to take the giants in a fight. But there is a thin, very exact path through the gold that doesn't run into them at all. Digging this out gets us into the gem field, but ignore the gold for now. You have to seal off the 3 blocks that connect the gem field to the enemy keeper. If you did all this quick enough, the enemy keeper will not have reached them yet, and you have successfully locked the enemy keeper out of infinite gold, given infinite gold to yourself, and prevented them from being able to invade your dungeon, so save instantly. You did it. With all this done, we can now slowly build up our forces while the enemy is totally cut off being able to gain more gold. Don't immediately assume the enemy keeper will be an easy win here, as they still have a massive level advantage over us, and the enemy keeper AI in combat is a hell of a thing to deal with. In combat, the enemy keeper will do everything it can to stop us, including dumping its entire army instantly on any one of our units that gets isolated, and spamming heal and lightning spells in combat to just force a win. So you're gonna need to play just as dirty as them. In the base game, a glitch meant the Lord of the Lawn didn't need to be fought at the end of this level, but Keeperfx changes that, because clearly what this needed was more challenge. With the enemies all defeated, I find a transfer creature special letting me send my level 6 barbarian that I converted to my side into the next level. And from now on, there is usually a transfer creature special hidden in every level, and having a leveled up high tier minion will make coming levels significantly easier. Onto level 9, Moonbrush Wood, we are given a break as there are no assaults upon our dungeon and no rival keepers to deal with as well. It's just a new snowy tile set for the environment and the task of slaying 4 high level wizards and their guards in 4 separate isolated areas of the map. It's much more slow paced and relaxed, with a unique snow aesthetic, access to gems, a labyrinth, and the ability to take fights when you are ready. This level is also where dragons and samurai are unlocked for you to fight and to recruit. It does feel like this map is for introducing us to the highest tier of units in combat with them, as just rushing biodemons and pushing at level 5 like we've done previously will only serve to get us killed. Here, the enemy hero unit, the samurai, is something to particularly watch out for, as they are tied with the Dark Mistress for the second best melee fighter in the game, and they can easily take out minions that are several levels higher than them. I managed to turn Dungeon Keeper into a gacha waifu game on this level, as I train a Dark Mistress to level 10 just to be in awe as she effortlessly solos nearly everything. The enemy heroes are totally unable to stop her, and I'm safe in the knowledge until the game physically stops me, I will be transferring my new waifu from level to level throughout the campaign. With the wizards defeated, I start exploring the map and find the special that gives access to one of the secret levels, but it requires entering a room full of gas traps. Now, the only real way to deal with an enemy trap is to run it out, so you either need to possess a unit, preferably one immune to the trap type, into standing over it, or if you're Mr. Moneybags like I am at the end of the level, just spawn endless amounts of minion waves into the Chamber of Farts from South Park until you get what you need. The secret level is a challenge mission about getting all your minions killed as fast as possible, which, as I demonstrated getting here, I am exceedingly efficient at. It gives us a time limit in order to kill all our imps. Luckily, there are some boulder traps to help us. Now, I don't think I previously got across just how devastating boulder traps are. They are capable of instantly killing nearly every unit in the game, only stopping when the boulder has bounced off enough walls or becomes stuck. The way they bounce is also totally unpredictable, and they can very easily kill your own troops as much as the enemies. Once you have valiantly sacrificed all your imps to the Rolling Stone God of Death, you are granted a level 10 Dark Mistress and a transfer creature spell to take her into the next level. Level 10 is called Nevergrim and starts us and the enemy keeper on completely even open areas surrounded by gold. I imagine this would make a good multiplayer map. The portals here just spew out endless amounts of dragons, so it's just a case of rushing the neutral sides to grab the specials before the enemy keeper does, and hoping the enemy keeper doesn't damage you too much with his access to scavenging rooms. Things get a bit more simple now, with level 11 Hearth being a wave defense defense mode, much like the levels we had at the start of the game, but you are stuck with a very pokey pre-built dungeon and have to fight off the waves of enemies with what you can do with that. Level 12 and 13 are just more of the same with fights against 2 keepers, but then at level 14 we get a bit unconventional with things. So until now, every level's objectives have just been kill everything, and this level features 2 keepers and a hero dungeon, but you only actually need to defeat the hero. So while you absolutely could do what I did and take the long way around defeating each keeper before assaulting the heroes, you can just stockpile a bunch of gold, cast Eye of Evil on the tiny hero stronghold and drop rocks on them until they all die, ending the level in just a few minutes. I feel the ability to cast spells anywhere you have vision means a few more levels could actually be won like this, but this is the only one I figured out. Sad days when we hit level 15 Woodley Rhyme, as this is about when my honeymoon period of transferring my waifu from map to map no longer just automatically wins me the game. Our dungeon and the 2 enemy dungeons are each on separate islands in an underground lake which acts as a neutral barrier between us all. Said neutral barrier happens to be guarded by Toshiro Mifune and Tatsuya Nakadai tier level 10 samurai and also a level 10 lord unit who can and will end any minion you transferred over in an attempt to rush. Our lucky break is the exclusive for this level Armageddon spell, which costs a GDP of New Zealand in gold to cast. Armageddon stops the game, blows everything up and summons every single unit on the map to your dungeon heart for a brawl. The last surviving minion's controller is given the win for the level. I must say, by the way, the patch keeper AI really impressed me on this map. I ended up finding one of the keepers had defeated the other before I was even ready to cast Armageddon. I did gain one complaint about the game by this point, and it's his over-reliance on putting secrets into rooms with every tile a trap. It isn't difficult or interesting to play against, it's just simply boring having to spam minions on every tile over and over and over again until they eventually get the special. Level 16 blesses us with a gameplay equivalent of a white elephant in the form of 2 goddamn horned reapers to babysit. Now normally I just save myself the hassle and chuck them out into the portal and use real creatures who don't get more pissed off by sleeping, but you are very quickly invaded by high level heroes, so they're gonna need to hang around for a bit, because even with a transferred level 10 it's gonna be a dicey fight. Once the invasions are dealt with you can rush and end this level really quick, but a lot needs to be done to get the creature transfer, and if you ever want to transfer a level 10 horned demon, this is the place to do it. There's also a creature doubling special on this map which lets me get 115 imps total, something which would have detonated any contemporary computer at the game's release. Level 17 Murphshire is purely a survival against waves of heroes, which backfires on me a bit because if you beat them back fast enough you can just end up sat there perfectly fine waiting for the level to end. Unfortunately though, there is no transfer creature special on this level, so I have to say goodbye to the mistress who has been carrying me thus far and go for the secret level found here instead, as the reward for completing them is typically a creature to transfer. This secret level is a really fun twist on the gameplay. You have nothing but a skeleton and must run a gauntlet of traps and enemies, and it involves using trial and error to find the optimal path through. Once through the archers, boulders and secret fart bombs, we gain a level 9 hero, a priestess, to take with us to the next level. The game itself tells us to rush level 18 Blaze End, but while our new priestess can handle some of the initial fight, she totally lacks the mistress's survivability and will lose the first proper incursions we have to deal with. This level is easily tied with the final for the hardest in the game, most evidenced by the fact it managed to filter out people from even finishing the game when they were playing without the fixed AI. It is an infamous slog which sees you tasked with fighting an infinite amount of respawning enemies and regular attacks on your dungeon based on how much gold you mine, while you personally are stuck to a firm limit of 60 creatures, and the spawning rules for the portals on this map will just spew dragons and other shit at you that, much like me when Arrow Video drop a new 4K for a film I haven't even seen, leave the treasury empty in a single payday. So keeping rooms small is best for now. We will be permanently starved of gold the entire time, and winning this map requires having prior knowledge of where everything is. It isn't even a fun challenge. I'll be honest with you, it is easily the worst level in the game, and don't take my word for it. I recorded 3 fucking hours of this level, and times that by 2 just for playing to learn the map. In order to win, you cannot spend money. Mining gold triggers the attacks, and the first patrol spawns after exactly a single block's worth of gold is mined, so you can't get clever and just semi-deplete the blocks without mining them out. You have to be secure and have dug out and reinforced as large an area as possible before you even touch any of that gold, so don't build anything but a lair and a hatchery to start with. Don't even claim the portal, as it's full of dragons with a collective payroll and the tens of thousands ready to completely destroy your dungeon economically. Expanding north, you'll have to dig out this exact pattern to get access to the other gold deposits, and then cut off all routes to you at the sides with walls. Once you are safe, save and begin training your creatures and scavenging all you can. Be very mindful of your gold expenditure, as you have 0 gem deposits and a fortress to take out. Do to the constant attacks, a huge workshop for defense and funds is going to be needed. Selling the traps is also the only way to realistically stay afloat, as all the gold you can mine is going to run out fast, with every 8 minutes Scaly McFlame Balls submitting 6 Birkin bags on its expense report and your financial imps just letting him. When we are finally able to make some offensive moves, we get welcomed with multiple scripted ambushes from high level heroes dropping in the second any of our minions enter an area. It's all the fun of getting a shock MOT repair bill while school children throw knives at you. And because everything is just going peachy at this point, heroes are infinitely spawning on this level. It's the only level in the entire game this is a thing on. Back in the day, the unending spawning enemies meant back when this game was new, there was a secret time limit until all the units on the map melted your computer. So at least in the modern day we have avoided that. But the infinity mass generator of do-gooders means your final battle for the hero's dungeon heart will be a hell slog. I was down to a single mistress who killed the heart, with the rest of my minions dead from the fight or the traps filling the room. The good news doesn't stop there though, as you'll also find that there is no transfer creature spell on this map. So if you want to be able to transfer a strong creature into the next level, and as you're going to find out when we get there, you fucking will need to, you'll need to clear the rest of the dungeon of random patrols in order to reach the secret level special. This is actually secret level 1, but due to an error in the base game, secret level 5 was unreachable. Keeperfx makes that lost secret level the first secret level and moves what was the first secret level into the 5th secret slot, which is what we've now activated. Secret 5 has you possessing a dragon through a gauntlet. I hadn't mentioned this previously, but like most reptiles, when you possess them, dragons can throw grenades. And here it's really useful, just letting you sit in the lava and bomb people like it's Desert Storm. This sounds really fun until you learn most of the level is breaking down doors, which when you're a dragon involves this. Exciting, I know. As the secret level progresses, you'll switch through multiple creatures before landing on a vampire. You can leave now the second you get him, but killing all the heroes brings your vampire to level 10. Personally, I say don't waste your time trying that, because I firmly doubt it's actually even possible, the sheer glut of heroes it throws your way. We now arrive at my favourite level and the penultimate level in the entire game, Missile. We have no access to training rooms, but an excellent pre-built dungeon already there for us. Here, our level 7 vampire is vital, as all our troops will be level 1. The only way we get to have a training room is if we capture one from either the heroes or the enemy keeper's bases, with the heroes being slightly easier to take. Luckily as well, the enemy keeper is pretty easy for us to cut off from attacking, as we start with some level 10 imps who dig like the absolute clappers, letting us cut off the enemy keeper from the map fairly easily. But we do still have the heroes to deal with, and eventually the enemy keeper, who in all the time we take dealing with the heroes is able to freely train their units. So make sure to be capturing and subjecting to a non-consensual employment seminar as many of the enemy as possible. The developers actually pulled their socks up when designing the secrets on this map as well. If we look to our east, we find a little hero gauntlet that we will need to possess a creature through to the end. It rewards a gem seam, 2 level 4 dragons, and 3 very important instant kill boulder traps that normally we can't build on this map. These will be vital, as if we were clever and cut the enemy keeper off from their money at the start, their entire dungeon is going to be mostly level 10 skeletons and spiders, as that is all they can afford. They might have some other units, as Keeperfx gives enemy keepers the ability to make and sell workshop traps for an income stream without gold, just like you can. But we should expect that the second those walls come down, there's going to be an explosion of upset skeletons like there was a gas leak at an osteopath conference. The way I found to deal with this was setting up a trap to bait the enemy keeper into dropping a bulk of their troops at a breach I created, letting my pre-set up boulders roll in and instant kill as many of them as possible. And then with my massive cash reserves from all the gems on this level, I was able to whittle down all his level 10s with lightning, as skeletons cannot be taken back to the lair to heal after being killed. With this level done, there's no transfer, no secret levels, there's no more help. We're going into the final level Raw Dog, and good Christ, it's going to be rough. Welcome to Skybird Trill. You're gonna lose. First of all, like some of the previous missions, this is memorize what the map looks like or go the fuck home. You have the most powerful hero, the Avatar, to defeat, and an enemy keeper with every possible advantage over you, and a base pre-built for them. The way the map is laid out, we are given thankfully quite a bit of space and resources to build ourselves up, and between you and the enemy keeper is an empty hero base. Unable to build bridges at the start, this is a rush to be able to deal with a couple of level 10 tentacles between you and the enemy keeper, as you have to navigate the thin strips of land that allow you to start claiming the hero base. Digging to the east, you'll find plenty of level up boxes, but be extremely careful about the 3 hero spawn locations here. 2 can be blocked off, and you might want to build a kill corridor of traps to funnel them down at a later date, while the other can be cut off by by using a guard post. Now, one thing we got to dance around is the heavy amount of scripting the enemy keeper has to deal with on this level. The enemy keeper won't do anything on this level until one of their imps gains a job to do outside of their dungeon, like for example dragging one of the bodies of the tentacles. Once that happens, they're going to start expanding into that empty heroes dungeon and pick up a few neutral creatures on the way. Eventually this is going to end up with them destroying the hero's heart, and once that's done, the avatar appears and they gain a level 10 vampire for some fucking reason. The avatar appears in a jail owned by the enemy keeper outside of their dungeon, so you can either rush to start claiming the hero dungeon or use your spells to whittle down the keeper's forces like I do here until you're ready to fight the avatar. The enemy keeper is not your objective for this map, just the avatar, but killing the avatar is much easier said than done, as they have superior combat stats to a level 10 Horned Reaper and have significant self-heal and combat spells to use in a fight. And you don't want to be throwing everything you have at him either, as the enemy keeper will be harassing your forces this whole time. And as you're going to find out, the avatar is the easiest fight in this level. Once defeated, the avatar disappears and a timer begins. Have you ever felt like a game's devs hate you? Because you're going to hear, as when that timer ends, there's going to be multiple fully level 10 hero invasions of your dungeon. These spawns are serious and can easily wipe out even a large and well-trained force. You need to have built your dungeon with this invasion entirely in mind from the start. Boulder traps are going to be your biggest crutch here, as they can wipe out multiple level 10s in one go, especially if you create funnels in your base to maximize the targets. Unfortunately though, the avatar is not only back to bash your heart in here, but he is immune to boulder traps, so you just have to hope that dealing with the rest of the invasion hasn't totally crippled your forces enough that they cannot fight the avatar. If somehow you manage to defeat the avatar again, you've won the game, well done. It literally only gets harder from here, because after the main game is done, you've got the official expansion Deeper Dungeons of more challenging maps that you can play in any order. Outside of the official content, Keeperfx has backports of a game mode from Dungeon Keeper 2, the Pet Dungeon, which lets you build a completely restriction-free dungeon with no enemies and a hero spawner that lets you stage all the fights you want. But the real bonus Keeperfx brings is the fan-made campaigns. Included with your install is a New Game Plus remix of the campaign to be even harder, because the 4 hours of playing Skybird Trail was just not enough for me. New Game Plus is really a big step up and challenge. The very first level I was taken by surprise in the first fight and needed to actually pay attention and use possession properly to win every fight. That already adds significant replayability, but there's a completely fan-made campaign that I really liked in the Good campaign, featuring new voice acting and completely new maps. The Good campaign has you building dungeons for heroes against keepers in a great twist on the gameplay. While you do still have minions, you get access to tunnelers, the much more effective Good version, who do take up food and lair space but are able to fight. I do believe as well there were some AI changes in the Good campaign, as these dwarfs just fucking leg it at the enemy heart in a way none of my base game minions ever did. The best part of fan campaigns is being made by people with years of experience playing and making levels for a game they really love. Objectives get played around with a lot too. In the second level of the hero campaign, you're tasked with covering all the lava on the map with bridges for health and safety purposes, I presume. The familiarity the creators have with the game and how it's played mean they put in some really nasty tricks and traps in the levels, and you will be gotten quite badly a few times at least. I had to actually stop myself playing more of the Good campaign. I loved it so much that I was putting off making this video just to play more of that. With the fan content that's included, and with much more you can find online, Keeperfx easily ends up in the hundreds of hours of playtime territory. For a game so old and so cheap, it's amazing that it's so playable on modern systems, with gameplay that, despite many attempts to imitate it, has yet to really be matched. It is one of the best PC games period in my opinion, and anyone interested in strategy games should definitely play it. Bloody hell. So every possible thing that could have happened to interrupt me making this video. There was points when I was writing it that water was actually streaming into the house from a leaking boiler that I had to get replaced, and then very near to the end my computer had a massive driver issue and I thought I lost all my work. Nevertheless, I managed to recover everything and now I'm here. I hope you all enjoyed this video a lot. It took way more work than any of the others, pretty much more work than all the other videos I've done combined. Do make sure to subscribe, leave a like and a comment if possible. They really do help me out. And my next video will probably be a shorter one, just a palette cleanse from this, probably more a horror related one, and then I'll be back into doing a bigger video, either Dungeon Keeper 2 or another game that I don't want to reveal yet or spoil, but it's also a similar old strategy game that most people have forgotten about on the PC. I am quite tempted to just keep rambling on here until the video passes an hour mark, but I'll show mercy and just simply say I've been Daniel Wadsworth, and thank you for watching.